Ramos, we have a fireside chat entitled Scaling Up a Founder's Perspective. I'd like to invite now Patrik Möller, CEO of CorPower Ocean, to the stage, and also Möller, co-founder and CEO of ROSI, and also Benoit, Lemaignan, co-founder and CEO at Verkor. Please take your seats and welcome. I'm sure that was very interesting for you, hearing the finalists there. So, I'm going to ask if you to introduce what you do to our audience in a nutshell, and just, again, using that language that we often use as journalists. Why should we care? What does your product mean actually for the world? How are you helping? Over to you first.
Thanks. So, in CorPower, we turn ocean waves into electricity. So I think a lot of people have been standing there on the beach looking out and seeing this constant flow of power coming in. The waves never stop, but until now there hasn't been a really good way to convert that into electricity, and that's what we spent 13 years working on now, and finally have an industrial way of doing that.
And just to be very clear, so your product is a buoy. For most of us, a buoy in the ocean is a size, right? Roughly when you're there swimming, but yours is a completely different type of buoy. We were speaking about this earlier, almost from the floor to the ceiling, right?
It's a big buoy, yeah.
It's a very big buoy. That's the size. And how's it working?
Yeah, so it's a composite buoy and is moored to the seabed, and it is moving up and down and side by side in the waves, and then we turn that relative motion into rotation, and then a spinning generator and power electronics and a cable down to the seabed. And then we combine hundreds and in the future thousands of these devices into dense arrays where we can do big utility scale wave farms.
And where are they right now?
So we have one very nice one, and you have a model outside which is a quarter scale, so it's 4 times as big as that one, up here in Viana do Castelo, just north of Porto. So powering the Portuguese grid, and it has survived 18.5-meter storm waves up there.
Wow, so they have to be super resilient then.
It has been one of the biggest challenges in wave energy to make devices that can survive the biggest storms while producing a large amount of power compared to the size and the cost.
And roughly, where are you in the project's life cycle, or just help us understand, is it not at the beginning, clearly, it's there in the sea.
It is, and it has taken us 5 generations of technology to get to that point.
5 generations,
yeah,
wow.
And 13 years since we started in InnoEnergy in 2012.
Amazing, wow. Thank you so much. We'll be digging into more about your journey. Benoit, thank you very much indeed. Patrik, sorry. We continue, and Johan, I want to hear about your project. So you have a fascinating project. Just speak to us about it. You take solar panels and transform them.
Exactly.
Take it away.
So our planet, we have been benefiting from the electricity generated by the sunshine since more than 30 years. So today we are facing a tsunami of these old solar panels. So at ROSI, we explore, we dig gold from these old solar panels for our strategic industries. So we are exploring a mine rich in raw materials.
And so the solar panels, where do you get them from? Is it off someone's roof? I don't know, well, factories?
Everywhere.
Like where? What?
From the assets, from the solar power plants, from the roof, from everywhere. So our aim is to recycle all the old solar panels collected in Europe.
Otherwise, where do they go?
Today, most solar panels, we're at the beginning of the tsunami, so a part of the solar panels are collected by eco-organizations and recycled by very basic recycling method that is shredding. So what ROSI is doing, we're doing high purity recycling that would benchmark the same purity of the raw materials recycled as in the solar panel, and re-inject them back to different strategic industries. Another part of the solar panels, when they are not collected by eco-organization, unfortunately, they're either landfilled or exported illegally.
Excellent. Thank you for explaining that. Okay, Benoit, what do you do?
We are currently starting our first gigafactory in Dunkerque, north of France. So it's a big factory to manufacture very good batteries that will power one of the top Renault car starting next year in the streets. It's the Alpine F390 car. So we've been into that since 5 years.
For 5 years? Okay. And what's different about what you're producing to what's currently out there?
First of all, it's localized in Europe, and it's a nascent industry, as you know. It's part of the projects that are reinforcing the European industrial value chain. And second, those batteries are going to offer a 30% time reduction when it comes to charging speed. So you'll have to wait 30% less time when you wait to charge your car. It also gives you more range. So we are an evolution of existing technology. We are not a disruption in this moment. But next, we will embrace new technologies to increase the potential of the battery while also reducing the costs.
Mm-hmm. And just, I don't drive an electric car yet, but I have worked in the electric car industry for a long time, racing. What problem exactly are you solving? Is it the speed of charging?
I think first we stop burning oil in cars.
Of course.
And I think that's a big problem. And then the other problems, I think for 80% of us, are not a problem anymore. So with the batteries that we are producing, you can drive your car to anywhere, charge it reasonably fast by just having the time of a coffee, which means now it's about scale and massive adoption. There is no technological limitation to a massive evolution towards EVs. So let's maybe stop finding excuses and play the game, and you'll deliver, and you'll have a fantastic experience of finding the car that is less noisy, if not completely silent, that is, of course, not in need of maintenance every 10,000 kilometers, and that you don't need to refill at the gas station anytime soon. So I think it's important that we remind that it's about massification and scale effects, rather than wondering whether this product is good or bad, because the product is excellent, be it coming from Europe, a lot of good cars are coming, be it coming from Asia also.
Thank you so much, Benoit. Now, we've heard a bit about what you're doing. I want to hear, or we want to hear about your journey, because that is fascinating. I personally find it fascinating. We were talking earlier saying, I feel that founders or entrepreneurs have a different gear, a tenacity, a resilience that is almost superhuman. So first to you, Patrik, what triggered you to become an entrepreneur?
I think I've always been like a builder. I always wanted to do stuff for myself, and always been like questioning, couldn't this be done better somehow? So already at university, I studied in Berkeley in California for my last year for my master.
What did you study?
Sorry?
What subject did you study?
Chemical engineering, I studied. And there I came up with an idea for how to make semiconductor manufacturing more effective. And then I came back to Sweden and started a company based on my master thesis on doing copper circuitry on silicon wafers. And I ran that for some 10, 11 years, raised quite some money and built a big team and had a factory in France, etc. And then when we sold the technology for that one, I was thinking, now I'm going to take a regular job and try that for once.
How did that go? A regular job?
Yeah, but then I got actually introduced to some people here who started InnoEnergy at that time, and I met some inventors at the Royal Institute of Technology, the inventor about our technology here in CorPower, Stig Lundbeck, who was a medical doctor actually, inspired by the pumping principles of the human heart. And then I realized, nah, I'm not going to take that regular job. I need to get into another journey like that.
But not a 9 to 5, no.
Yeah. So then I started CorPower together with him, with backing from InnoEnergy there back in 2012.
And just for clarity, the product, the boy, it's not your idea. You're not the creator. You came in and made it successful.
Exactly. In my first company, I was the crazy inventor. Now I'm the experienced entrepreneur who brings structure to it. So yeah.
So you bring structure.
Some experience. Why are you laughing over there? to that one. Now, of course, it's a different one. We have actually in CorPower been bringing multiple different inventors and different ideas from across Europe to form a system that then became both reliable and very competitive over time. So I mean, the idea of the invention part is actually a quite small part of the journey in the end. It's,
But the life cycle, getting it to actually do what it's supposed to do and stay there and make money is, that's another skill set. Excellent. Great to hear about that entrepreneurial spirit. Yoon, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
So by education, I'm a physicist. So I always believed a big part of the civilization of our society is driven by technology. So actually to become entrepreneur, it was not planned at all. As a physicist, I believe in logics. So for me, it was a necessity to become entrepreneur. Because when you see these hundreds of thousands of end-of-life solar modules lying everywhere on the market, you just cannot pretend you don't see them. And the most sincere response to this need is to provide a solution, industrial solution, which is circular economy, which is scalable, and which is profitable.
I love that, Yoon. It's a necessity to become an entrepreneur. So you couldn't just sit back and see the solar panels there going to wherever they're going. You had to take a decision and solve it. How easy is that to do? I mean, surely, do you hesitate? Did you think maybe I'm going to make a mistake? This is not the right path for me? What's that thinking like?
So we started with a quite naive mind, which was very helpful. We didn't really expect so much challenge that would come. Mm-hmm. Important thing is we never question our purpose.
You never question your purpose?
We always question under uncertainty, question the path towards our purpose, but we never question the purpose.
I love that. That must really drive you if you don't question your purpose. When people are maybe questioning you and giving you negative, or you power through. You see, this is a supernatural skill. I'm fascinated by it. Thank you so much. Benoit, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
That I don't know. But what I do know is that in my view, maybe 7 years ago, it was obvious that we had to collectively wake up and not let, I would say bluntly, but not let others. And I think that was very clearly shown at the beginning of the TBB when Michael highlighted the fact that, we have the West with oil industry, we have the East with clean technology. What do we do as Europeans? I think this is, for me, the core motivation is we cannot simply sit and be happy consumers of things that are thrown into Europe from the US or from Asia. And one obvious technology that is going to be massive are batteries, because they are connecting the dots between renewable electricity and mobility and storage. And then we have two options. One is, okay, so be it, let's buy it elsewhere. And then let go jobs, let go part of the social welfare of Europe, or let's react, let's show the way, and let's try to create that industry, and let's create it ultimately. And this is what also, in connection to the European Battery Alliance and INO, made me, say, why not do that? And then at the beginning, you have the vision, and progressively others are going to adhere to that vision because they see that you can probably steer a bit the direction where we are all heading by adding one piece, that piece being this battery industry, and within that piece, Verkor is one piece of a piece that is the first battery gigafactory with all the value chain around, with competencies, with talents. And then progressively, every single day, you have small victories and you have big defeats. I need to be able to continue because the vision is the right one. And in those 6 years, a lot has changed in the world. The good thing is nothing has changed in why we do that. And this is also what made people wake up every morning at Verkor. And I can tell you, every day when you are launching such a big factory, you have 1,000 reasons not to be happy. But every day you also saw a machine that is starting, a product that is produced, a car that is being driven with the batteries. And you see that progressively the trust is being built. So it's a difficult moment for that European industry because we are still a bit hesitating. Should we continue? Should we move back to the past? But the past is not an option anymore. So keep going, keep pushing. And as a result, there I am. But it was not the intention to be here to reflect on it. That we cannot let go of that industry without moving. That was the reason for engaging myself.
And Benoit, you're an aerospace engineer by training, and now you've become, I believe, a serial entrepreneur. How does that jump happen?
I think that's a good question. When I have time, I may be writing my memoir on that. I think what the aerospace industry learned me is that by being collaborative in Europe, we've been capable of erecting the world champion in civil aerospace industry. That is, as we can hear in those days, also becoming a top defense player, which means that it's exactly possible to do the same thing in other industries. That's what I learned. And look at what we have been doing in aerospace. It's clearly at the top of the industrial edge we have all over the world. Let's take on those experiences to do the same in other sectors. And clean transition is an obvious place where Europe has a lot to learn. Keep in mind, batteries were invented in Europe. Nickel batteries were invented in Europe. Lithium iron phosphate batteries were also invented in Europe. So we have all the technology inventors that we need. Let's dedicate the engagement of the coalitions of the ones that are willing to see things happen to execute, scale up, speed, and do it because we have the muscles to do it. It's globally a question of collective engagement.
That's a great message. Thank you, Benoit. I want to ask about scaling and the journey. Patrik, so in the early days, how did you test? How did you know that your idea had the potential to scale and the risks associated with it?
Yeah, we set out a lot of, we started a 5-stage process quite early to understand, can we prove the physics and thereby metrics that will take us to competitive product in the end? Because when we were traveling around Europe in the beginning, looking at what other people had done in wave energy, it was kind of most devices in wave had historically failed in storms, or secondly, they had become very large, heavy, and costly compared to the amount of electricity that they could produce, and then it hasn't worked.
How much does it weigh? Because we know how tall it is. It's from the floor to the ceiling here.
Yeah.
But how much does that boy weigh?
It's about 100 tons, and for 300 kilowatts of rating, and that is...
It's a beast.
It's a beast, but compared to previous wave energy devices, they have them between 50 and a few hundred meters big and thousands of tons for the same material. So we are at least 5 times, most often 10 times, as structurally efficient as anything else that has been out there in wave energy. And we are equally structurally efficient, I would say, as fixed offshore wind. So we use about the same amount of materials for the same amount of energy as that one. And in the stages of testing and how we could test that, you know, the challenge that we came in is like, we're going to need somewhere like 15 years, 150 million euros to prove this. And you can't go to an investor saying, well, nobody else has succeeded, but believe me, this time it's going to work. Just give us 15 years, 150 million euros, and it will be great.
How do you have those conversations? But this was our subject yesterday with Philippe TV on my panel. Just because of the trajectory, convincing them because the visibility isn't there, and getting someone to buy into something that is so long term. What were those conversations like?
Yeah, first of all, we decided not to invite investors for the first 3 stages, because also the experience, this is not really a VC case. You don't get the best investors you want to have until you're quite far along. So when I said structure before, I meant how you take this stage-wise and really prove things before you invite investors to the party. So we actually did between 2012 and 2018, and we did 3 generations of prototypes without inviting VCs to the company. And we based everything on very measurable metrics, like energy per ton, energy per force, energy per volume, things you can measure in the lab, tank testing in Nantes, in France, here in Porto, in Portugal, and benchtop prototypes where we can really prove the physics. And we decided only if we have metrics where we can convince ourselves to spend our own time on the next phase and ask for money to do the next phase, we should continue. And be quite ruthless in saying if it's not higher than at least 5 times better than anything before, we shouldn't really spend our time on this. And that's the kind of structure we've been working with. And then it's more manageable. You fund 1 stage, lots of grants, lots of research money in the early days to make that happen. And then in 2018, we had proven a half-scale machine in Orkney in Scotland, and there could invite investors for the first time. So that's
fascinating. What a journey. Thank you so much. Yoon, what about you? What about those early days and the decisions about how to scale and to see if the idea had the potential to even scale?
Exactly. So as we produce high-quality raw materials from the waste, this is a new market, a new industry. So when we started, there was no benchmark. So we followed a very logical industrial upscaling rule that is technically, industrially, can we go large scale? And is there a market for the recycled materials to go back to different industries? Because there are two biggest challenges for recycling. One is analyzing the quality of the recycled materials. That gives you directly financial feedback, so financial profitability. A second is, where do you reintegrate recycled materials back to industries? Recycled materials, they are never exactly the same as virgin material, so we need industries that accept these recycled materials. So first, develop a process that worked in the lab, then look for the bigger size equipment that can realize the process, do a first cost estimation, get the materials to the off-takers, asking them to modify their process, to reintegrate materials back to their industry. So that was our early days, quite a lot of struggling. The upscaling process, actually, it's an alignment of speed, our credibility, and the capitals, which was a very, very tough journey because it is full of contradictions. You cannot secure capitals without a site, operational site, so capitals will not take you seriously. Without capital, you cannot ramp up operational site. You don't have off-takers, you cannot guarantee the supply chain. Even the equipment producers will question your financial stability. So it's a very, very big struggling. So we go step by step with a lot of creativity and a lot of luck also, of course.
Fantastic to hear about that journey. Thank you. Benoit, what about those early days and seeing if the idea had the potential, real potential to scale?
It was quite obvious that making batteries was a question of scale. So I think the point was not really whether we could do it at the right scale, is that did we have the team capable of creating the spinner of the idea that would then enable the so-called domino effect or the momentum that you need to be keeping. When we started, we were during the COVID lockdown, so it was a moment where, hey, what will be the world after that? It was a bit difficult to visualize. One thing was clear is that electric is going to be dominating mobility later down the road. It's true everywhere in the world. The second thing was that localizing value chain was seen as important because remember right after the COVID, we were unable to manufacture cars in Europe because we simply lacked the so-called semiconductors. And those were paid at a price that was unbelievable at the time. So I think those two elements triggered an attention to those localization of value chains. And this is maybe when and how we manage to create this momentum that is extremely important. And each person, each stakeholder that you bring around such a project is adding to the momentum and is going then to spill over with others. And ultimately, you manage to create enough credibility around the vision that people will buy that vision and will be able to jump in as investors, our customers, as partners, because you need to convince all of them. Because when you come to an equipment manufacturer in Korea or a company that can build your factory in France, at the beginning, they simply don't believe that this is going to be real. And one of the challenges we all have as entrepreneurs is to create enough goodwill and momentum and trust around that vision. And then when it materializes, people always will, rescue the victory. They'll come and say, oh, but I know this will be a success from the beginning. But the one that jumped in early were the one that took somehow the risk of this not materializing. And you never know in advance what will make things a big success. So that's why it's important as a CEO, as a founder, to just manage expectations of all the shareholders that you have. It's really stakeholders. And stakeholders management is type of a cultural practice we have at Verkor on every important decision. Because you need to be able to project yourself in the eyes and the shoes of every other party that, independently from whether they are in contract with you or not, at the moment they've been in touch with you, they are a counterpart, they are a stakeholder. Mm-hmm. And you need to do stakeholder management from the very beginning. because then it will imply the brand image of your company, it will imply the capacity of others to continue supporting even if tough times, because you always have tough times. Of course, in the news or in the press or in such events, it's always, hey, life is easy, but the reality is not exactly like that. And then soon as you scale up, as a founder, your responsibility becomes to enforce the power of people that are going to run the show on your behalf. And it's about managing people, it's about making them work together. And the thing is, you realize later that as a founder, you have a magic wand, but others don't. And even if you don't see it, you do have that magic wand. So you need to use it very wisely, because if you go in all topics all the time, it's a complete mess. Independently from that, if you let people run the show on your behalf, believing they got the culture and they got the reason for you to launch such a company, then you're going to end up with a divergence within the company. And I think this is what probably is striking is finance, customers, permitting, and this kind of stuff. Somehow that's the easy part. The hard part is to align a collective team of people that you need to have wake up every day to simply push the company one step further, even in tough times, even in times when, hey, but the media is saying that EVs are not good, we should go back to combustion engines. Yes, maybe, but keep in mind that we are here for the long run, you know? These kind of things that burn some of your energy. That's why having the vision and the engagement from the day one is extremely important.
Benoit, I just want to jump in with a question. We're running out of time. There's so many questions for all of you. This is a fascinating debate, but how do you make sure you don't surround yourself by yes people? And how do you make sure that maybe you're not the person to take it to the next level?
Maybe I can answer on the first question, a quick answer on the second one. On the first question,
briefly as possible, I want to get around the room.
It's reasonably easy. You need to be able to have antennas to reach out the low noise signals all over the place. Mm-hmm. And in your responsibility, you can speak to anyone in the company. Make sure you have enough direct contact to places where low noise signals will be escalated to you. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean they are right, because if you listen to people, and typically in France, nobody likes his boss. Huh? So if you listen to people, you fire all the bosses of the company, then you are stuck. So don't do that. But try to understand how to steer people to have a big impact.
Thank you very much indeed. I want to go to this question about the personal drive that fascinates me. Because, of course, there are so many tough times that you guys have mentioned. But in those times of uncertainty, Yoon, what belief, what conviction keeps you going personally? And when you face those tough times, how did you overcome them? As briefly as possible, because we are running out of time. You, yes.
Okay, so tough times. As I said, we never question our purpose. Yeah. Our purpose is to turn this waste into high-value materials for the benefit of our planet. So tough times, I realized how important the management team, and coming back to me as CEO of the company, how I react will actually decide how my company will react when the difficult times come. Important thing is we all try to make ourselves better ourselves.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. We are coming to the end, but Patrik, if you could maybe give some closing thoughts here to the entrepreneurs we have in the room, and what would be a sort of final message that would inspire people?
Yeah. I mean, one big learning, I think, is to win in these kind of ultra-marathon races is very much about finding that ability to just keep going, keep pounding at the problem. There is always a way to solve every problem, and when you try hard enough.
You say that easily, but sometimes there is such a, I'm sure,
yes,
black wall around you. You just think, how do I get out of this, right? And
it is probably one of the biggest challenges, as Benoit is mentioning as well. Now we're a team of 100 people, and to get everybody to maintain that belief and that push. Yeah. Because there's still it's less of technical problems these days. Now we are about scaling. Now we're going from having 1 to 3 to then 45 machines, and now we have the funding to do that at a large scale. It's completely different kinds of challenges compared to when we had a machine not working or having technical issues with it. That was the primary things. But then getting everybody to maintain that belief and that vision and keep pushing in hard times. It is probably one of the biggest challenges to keep the momentum up.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
We have 44 seconds to go. You and briefly, your message of inspiration for our entrepreneurs.
If you want to become entrepreneur, really choose well a problem, a topic that you believe that worth your dedication for more than a decade of your life. If you're ready to empower other people and to jump in at the most difficult moment of the company, that's your task. The shiny moment should be your team. Are you ready for that?
Wow, so beautifully put. Thank you very much. Benoit, okay, I'm sure David lets us. In 20 seconds, very quickly, your final message.
I think it's take your bets, jump in, and my advice to all of you and to entrepreneurs is start by taking care of yourself, because there is no one else than you that can steer the company, and it's super important to take care of yourself. In France, there is an expression that says, ne pas tuer la poule aux œufs d'or. In English, don't kill the golden-egg chicken, and the golden chicken is you. So it's super important that you also respect yourself and take care of yourself before being able to, spread energy into the company, which is a burning exercise. So take care of yourself.
That's such a great point to end on, because at the end, you are the most important machine that is behind everything. And thank you. What a fantastic messages today. What founders, but beyond serial entrepreneurs, some of them. Thank you very much indeed to all of you. Thank you.